Christine, the waiting game continues for the Steelers. They keep waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision about his future. Steelers offseason workouts, by the way, begin next week. And the Steelers continue to wait, which has former Steeler and our Ryan Clark perturbed.
Pretty sick, to be honest. Unless Omar, the general manager, Omar Khan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has some sort of promise or some sort of lean on Aaron Rodgers, believing that he is going to come back and play football. And if he does make that decision, he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I feel like this has been mishandled already. I feel like to be waiting, right, or to be held hostage by a former quarterback of the New York Jets that's actually never done anything for you. What has Aaron Rodgers done in the last 2 years or since leaving Green Bay that says he should be afforded this type of time? When I think about this decision, to me, it doesn't matter what happens going forward. I think it's been a bad play by the Pittsburgh Steelers already.
Back here with our Jeff Darlington. All right, so where do things stand between Aaron Rodgers and this decision with the Steelers?
Well, quite frankly, they stand in the exact same place as they have now for weeks. This is a situation. I spoke to Steelers sources who basically said, yes, we are still optimistic that this is going to happen. But quite frankly, this one person I spoke to said, until it actually does, yes, people are waiting like with anxiety about this happening because quite frankly, there really isn't a great backup plan at this point. And this kind of extends to a little bit of what Ryan Clark was talking about here. All the free agents in this, what was actually a pretty mediocre class anyway, are off the board. There's really no availability there. The Steelers hold the 21st overall pick. Can you get a quarterback at that spot who's going to be game ready by week 1? They don't currently have necessarily a quarterback on their roster that they believe can be the starter of this team. So in some sense, all of their eggs are in this Aaron Rodgers basket. Again, are they optimistic this will happen? Yes. But are they 100% sure? Not even close.
Let's talk about somebody on the defensive side of the football, and that's Micah Parsons. We know that he is in attendance in those Cowboys offseason workouts, certainly wants a long-term deal. Where do they stand about getting that deal done?
Well, the good news, as you mentioned, he is participating in these voluntary workouts, and quite frankly, Micah Parsons the last 2 years has not done that. He generally, when it comes to these voluntary workouts, stays away and does his own training regimen. This is part of his plan, his desire to be a better leader for this defense. DeMarcus Lawrence, no longer part of this team. Parsons recognizes that he does need to step up. Now, how does that kind of pertain to his contract negotiation? We haven't seen any progress made. The only thing I'd say is this is sort of saying to Jerry Jones, I am here for you. I am going to do this the right way. So we'll find out how long it takes for Jones to reciprocate. If we know anything about these off seasons, we will be talking about the Cowboys and this contract negotiation for weeks, if not months to come.
One more thing here, Jeff, because there's a story that's just coming out. Travis Hunter, I guess, told CBS Sports in an interview that if an NFL team told him he had to focus on either wide receiver or cornerback and not play on both sides of the field, he said, quote, I'm never playing football again, end quote. What more are you hearing about this?
That's it's posturing quite a bit there because the NFL draft does work a certain way. I would say that plenty of NFL teams I've spoken to are willing to use him both ways. Now, would they use him in packages on offense and full-time on defense? That's one way of looking at it. Potentially the same thing if you were to go the other way around. Listen, he's asking to work more. I don't think a lot of teams are going to say no to that, but I will also say that telling a team that they're not going to do something or he's not going to play, that doesn't always work out. And again, worked out for Eli Manning.
Yeah, you're right about that. Jeff Darlington with the latest. Thank you, Jeff. Well, the NFL draft 9 days away, and the latest Field Yates, Mel Kiper mock draft, it's out. It's a 3-round mock. And despite meeting with the Giants later this week, there's growing speculation that Shador Sanders could fall to the Saints at number 9, which is where Yates picked Sanders to go, especially with the shoulder issues that Derek Carr now has. And speaking of our NFL draft analyst, Field Yates, with me now. So in this latest mock here, what makes Shador Sanders, you think, the right fit for the Saints at 9?
Well, let's not forget that this offseason the Saints have basically told us they want to compete in 2025. They went out in free agency. They added the likes of Justin Reed and also Brandon Cook. So they can't afford to just take a gap year at quarterback. Shador Sanders, the most accurate pocket passer in this entire class. He's got 4 years of college experience. He has won a ton of football games, both at Jackson State and also Colorado. He, his father, Coach Sanders, and also Travis Hunter put this program on the map in a way it hadn't been in over a decade. He has a poise about him that is ready-made to take on some of the rigors that are going to come with a young quarterback in the NFL. The Saints certainly desperate for quarterback help, whether it's 9 or a bit later in the draft. They cannot let that position be unattended to because they have a huge problem right now with Derek Carr's uncertainty.
It's hard to believe they haven't taken a quarterback in the first round since Archie Manning.
Gosh,
it's been that long.
That's the longest streak in the entire NFL, by the way, by a long, long shot.
That's crazy. All right, so let's talk about the Steelers because they've got the 21st pick, still waiting for an answer from Aaron Rodgers. We know that they've visited with Shador, but you say maybe to the Saints. How do they address?
Well, I followed the wisdom of Mel Kiper Jr. and allowed myself to take the liberty of assuming that the Aaron Rodgers deal gets done with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If it's not done by the time the draft rolls around, these plans will definitely change up. That being said, the Steelers are going to bypass a quarterback at number 21 overall and instead move up in the 3rd round to grab Jalen Milroe, the electric Alabama signal caller, who needs some time to develop. Well, if you play behind Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have at least a year to develop because Rodgers would be the starter for this upcoming season. I truly believe Jalen Milroe needs to land in a place where the team is determined to maximize the very good traits. He's the best running quarterback in the draft by a mile, and be patient and work to develop the traits that are not there yet. He needs to be a better short and intermediate rhythm game passer. Can that be developed? Some around the NFL are optimistic, which is why I do think he winds up going somewhere in the first 60 to 70 picks. Could be quite a bit higher than that.
Okay.
But Pittsburgh needs to be patient. With Aaron Rodgers in tow, Jalen Milroe would have a runway to develop over the 2025 season.
Obviously, there's a couple of other quarterback-needy teams, especially at the top of the draft. We talk about Cleveland with that number 2 pick. The Giants there with the number 3 pick. How do you have them addressing the quarterback?
So both of those teams bypassed a quarterback in 2 and 3, and Cleveland says, we're moving back up into the first round. As the Browns move from number 33 to number 29. That's Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss being their selection after the Commanders agree to move down in the order with Cleveland. So Jackson Dart, who led the FBS in yards per attempt last season, very good athlete as well. Ole Miss is all-time leader in passing yards. Cleveland would add to a quarterback room that has been entirely reshaped this offseason. As for the Giants, are allowed to be patient here. They end up with Abdul Carter at 3 and then Tyler Shuck at 34. Now, do I think it's a guarantee that the Giants stand pat at number 34? I don't. They also, like Cleveland, might be motivated to move up, but they get the 7-year college player in Tyler Shuck, who had a great last season at Louisville, has an excellent arm, great processor as well. Now, this is a player who some are wondering how much more of there is a ceiling to reach for Tyler Shuck. I tend to believe that players at 25 should not be told that there's no more room to grow, so the Giants can develop him as part of this 3-man quarterback group that also now includes Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
Yeah, it is interesting. The Giants, by the way, according to our Adam Schefter, having private workouts with Jalen Milroe.
Number 1 for me is Deone Clark, the linebacker. And I'm trying to focus on players who might actually have some value. Clark is owed $3.47 million this year. That is his cap hit. The Cowboys would save the basically non-remaining signing bonus stuff from that's about $3.41, which is also what a new team would owe Deone Clark. And I do worry that that level of cost might make him a more likely cut candidate than it would make a trade candidate. He played a lot in 2023. He had 100-plus tackles. He wasn't the most consistent and kind of really fell out of favor in Dallas, not just with this staff, but even kind of the previous one. I don't think they wanted to play him as much as they were kind of forced to. And the Cowboys have additional options. Now, we'll see when DeMarvion Overshown gets healthy, but they have Maurice Leofau back. They traded for Kenneth Murray. They signed Jack Sanborn. Buddy Johnson is a special teamer who could carve out a roster spot. The Cowboys draft a linebacker in like the 5th round, and Overshown gets healthy. That numbers game might not work in favor of Clark, especially given the potential savings he would be able to acquire with a move. You can be a hater or whatever, a trade value guy, whatever you want to call it there. But name a player who you want to trade. It's the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Next up is Sam Williams. Now this would probably be more of like a preseason training camp type of trade. But I think this is the sneaky name to keep an eye out for. Isn't owed much. 1.55 is the cash owed. The Cowboys would save 1.48. That's not that bad in terms of a hypothetical asset to move on from, to flip Sam Williams and get something back for him. And for me, there's two things you have to look at here kind of in depth. Number one, the production dipped this past year. I had 22 tackle, or in 2023, I should say. The TFLs went way down. The sacks went up, but the pressure rate wasn't particularly good either. And this is a Dan Quinn guy. And one thing we always know about the Cowboys is they're going to draft an edge. They do it every year under Will McClay. So that would be Micah Parsons, Dante Fowler, Marshawn Nealon's not going anywhere. They just signed Peyton Turner. Probably won't cut him. You had a draft pick in. That's 6 edges. They going to carry 6 edges? I'm not so sure that they would. Even if they want to go light at defensive tackle, as they seemingly always do. I think depending on how early that edge rusher gets drafted, see Sam Williams available. Next up is wide receiver Jalen Tolbert. And I think that his job as the number 2 receiver is about to go away early in this year's draft, which, if they add another guy too, then you get a little bit intriguing there. $3.63 million cap hit. You save $3.41. New team owes him that. Not that much money for a guy that could be a low-end 3. I don't know how much interest there would really be in Jalen Tolbert, but I'll give him credit for this. He's gotten better every year. The bar is low. It was 2 catches in year 1. It was 22 in 2023, 49 and 7 scores in 2024. But again, there is a numbers game here. You have CeeDee Lamb. Let's say you spend the first-round pick on a wide receiver. You have Kevontae Turpin. You have Jonathan Mingo. Okay, there's your top 4. Not maybe in that order, but Turpin and Mingo aren't going to go anywhere. Tolbert's 5, but then you've also got Brooks and Ryan Flournoy, and somebody's on the outside looking in, barring injuries. Now, I don't think Jalen Brooks and Flournoy have any trade value. I don't think the Cowboys are going to punt on Mingo. That would leave then Tolbert as the name that could potentially be. Next up on the Cowboys trade candidates, and this one I think would only come if the Cowboys spent a premium asset on the piece at safety. Malik Hooker / Donovan Wilson. Hooker has a $7.75 million cap hit, 3.75 before June 1st, i.e. draft night, 5.75 after June 1st. 5.75 was what the new team would owe. Similar, but not the same figures for Donovan Wilson. New team would owe him $7 million. Again, that's maybe a little expensive, but if something unique happened, let's say the Cowboys, they brought him in for a 30 visit. What if they drafted Andrew Makuba in the 3rd round if he fell to them? Then you could see a trade happen, unless they think Makuba can play nickel corner, which actually could be in the cards there. The Cowboys don't need a starting safety. They have Malik Hooker, they have Wilson, they've brought back Wanye Thomas, they brought back Marquise Bell. They will add a safety in some capacity, day 3 or as an undrafted free agent, but they don't have to make it a premium selection. If they did, then one of these guys could be on the block. Hooker is the free safety. I'd like to see more splash plays, but he's been fairly consistent for Dallas. Donovan Wilson is the opposite. He's had some splash plays, negative and positively. He's made some sacks, TFLs, pass breakups. When he plays, when the Cowboys win. When he plays poorly, it puts him in a bad spot. He's an inconsistent, impact player. Who do you like more of these two? MH for Malik Hooker, DW for Donovan Wilson. Let me know in the comments of today's show. A lot of recent late day 3 picks you could put on here that probably don't have much trade value, if any. The one that you might, and I'll emphasize might because I have my doubts on it, is getting something for Matt Let's go, a.k.a. the centerpiece of the Amari Cooper trade. He's owed next to nothing, $1.1 million in cash. That's basically the vet minimum. He was a draft pick on the offensive line. And as we've seen many times in the NFL, you were drafted, that draft pedigree might get a team to take a chance on you. Hey, even, sometimes less than that when the Chiefs trade for Peyton Hendershot, for example. Cowboys offensive line right now, really unique on the interior. It's two tight end, Jake Ferguson / Luke Schoonmaker. This, again, only happens if you spend a premium pick on a tight end. You say F it and take Tyler Warren or something in round 1. Or you do the funny thing and take Colston Loveland, which might break some of our minds. Ferguson is not owed very much, $3.41 million. He has proven himself to be a starting tight end. It's a matter of, is it medium level or low level starting tight end? Schoonmaker is, cheaper. $1.32 million is what the cash owed is. They might not say all that if they do it, before June 1st. He's also got 2 years of team control left on his deal. It is a solid tight end class. I don't think the Cowboys have to spend a pick. I don't think they view it as a need. They could if they wanted to for additional depth and competition and stuff, but it is not a glaring hole on this roster. Although Ferguson struggled this past year. I don't think he had the same chemistry with Rush as he did with Dak Prescott. And you can say the opposite about Luke Schoonmaker. He had better chemistry with Cooper Rush. And with Ferguson banged up, got to play more, was far more productive. Has not lived up to second-round pedigree. Neither guy would fetch you that much in a trade. That's why it really only makes sense if you do it as after you spend a premium pick on the tight end, which, again, I don't think this team ends up doing.